Imagine, for just a second, waking up every single morning to the sound of your mother counting heads, literally counting the people in your home. 1, 2, 3, 6. And she does this every single day before she even hands out the morning rations, before the sun even manages to breach the horizon, before anything resembling a normal morning routine can even begin. Now, when you're young, you might look at that and think, well, that's just pure paranoia, right? But I'm your host, and in today's Explainer, we are diving deep into the absolute harshest reality imaginable. We're exploring the deadliest planet in the entire Imperium of Man, a place called Catachan. And the thing about Catachan is, you soon learn that counting heads, that isn't paranoia, it's just basic bookkeeping, because there were 8 of you once in this settlement, and now there are only 6.
50%. I really want that number to sink in for a minute. Just let it sit there. This represents the infant mortality rate before the age of 1 on Catachan. It's literally a coin flip. Half of all children born on this planet do not survive their first 12 months breathing the air. Think about the kind of society that builds. It sets an impossibly brutal, unforgiving tone for existence right from the very first breath you take.
But the nightmare doesn't end there, does it? Because of the children who are tough enough or honestly just lucky enough to survive that first year, another 50% of them won't even make it to age 10. It is a relentless meat grinder. If you cannot shoot a weapon by the age of 3, handle basic blade work by 5, navigate the lethal jungle by 7, and instantly identify the kill or be killed ecosystem by 8, well, you just become a statistic. That is the cold, hard, mathematical reality of waking up on this world.
Section 1. Welcome to the Death World.
So how does a planet actually earn the official Imperium classification of a death world? It's a title that's reserved strictly for environments that are entirely fundamentally hostile to human life. And Catachan is the gold standard. The truly tragic irony of this place is the false hope it gave its very first colonists millennia ago. Because from orbit, it looked like paradise. Seriously, a lush, vibrant, green jewel floating in the cold void of space. They crash-landed thinking they had found Eden, but that illusion shattered almost immediately. Because on day 1, the trees started strangling people. This wasn't some passive environment you just had to respect. The planet itself was actively, aggressively trying to kill them from the exact moment their boots touched the dirt.
Let's just break down the daily commute here because the hazards are absolutely insane. You've got vines that don't just trip you up, they actively hijack your central nervous system. You've got an atmosphere where the air itself is mildly toxic on a good day. And the fruit? Well, the first exploratory team tried eating the local flora and literally dissolved from the inside out. So yeah, cross-foraging off the menu. And then there are the Catachan devils. This ecosystem perfectly sets the stage for the kind of men who survive here. Men like our narrator's father, Corin. We're talking about a man who, in his 20s, stared down a tank-sized Catachan devil and killed it with a knife. He is the absolute benchmark of survival on this rock.
Section 2. The Devil and the Egg.
Which brings us perfectly to the monstrous predators that define the absolute top of Catachan's food chain. Because they change the course of everything for our narrator. The Catachan devil. Imagine what happens when nature has a completely unlimited weapons budget. That's the devil. It is a tank-sized, part scorpion nightmare with a thick exoskeleton that simply shrugs off standard laser fire like it's nothing. And its jaws? They can bite straight through ferrocrete, which is literally the Imperium's toughest building material. Some Imperium scientists actually believe these things are ancient alien bioforms that went feral millions of years ago, and that Catachan just kept slowly improving the design. But Corin, our narrator's father, he didn't give a damn about the science. His philosophy on surviving these beasts was so much simpler, and honestly, so much heavier.
The jungle decides who dies. A warrior decides who doesn't. I really want you to feel the heavy, world-weary gravity of those words. This isn't just a catchy phrase they paint on a barracks wall. This is the central philosophy that anchors this entire explainer. Corin lived by this. He taught this to anyone who would listen. Once, when a neighboring hunter and his kid were caught stealing rations because a devil had completely breached their settlement, Corin actually let them go, because he understood deep in his bones that the jungle does the killing, but a true warrior's job is to protect, period.
But, of course, that philosophy is put to the ultimate brutal test one evening when the jungle goes completely unnervingly quiet. You know that silence, right? Dusk falls, and 3 Catachan devils hit the settlement simultaneously. Total carnage. In the absolute chaos, a 7-year-old boy named Tobin, he's the son of the Imperium liaison, he drops his pack, and a pale, fist-sized devil egg rolls right out onto the dirt. That's why they're here. They tracked the egg. Corin, seeing the absolute largest devil lock on to the boy and the egg,
doesn't even hesitate. He steps directly into its path. He opens fire, full auto, right into its face, but the monster doesn't even slow down. With one sweep of its massive arm, it swats Corrin into the perimeter wall hard enough to crack the solid concrete. The devils pick up the egg and just vanish back into the jungle. They only came for the egg. Everything else was just in the way.
Section 3. A promise made in spite.
In the grim aftermath of that attack, as the narrator pulls his broken father from the concrete rubble, desperately begging him to stay awake, crying that there's still so much he hasn't taught him, we're hit with the true cost. 37 people dead. This death toll, it includes the narrator's own mother. It includes his sisters. It includes little Tobin's father, Marcus. 37 lives absolutely extinguished in a matter of minutes. And why? All because a foolish 7-year-old kid picked up an egg he shouldn't have touched.
As the narrator holds his bleeding father, Corrin manages to grip his arm and pull him close. And here's the kicker. His last conscious words aren't, "I'm proud of you." They aren't some grand speech like, "Lead our people." They are simply, "Take care of the boy." He leaves his grieving son with an errand to protect the exact kid who just caused the bloody massacre of their entire family. Corrin slips into a deep coma right then and there, and the narrator is left holding a promise he absolutely cannot break. Over the next few years, this situation builds into a genuinely fascinating psychological evolution. The narrator can't just kill the kid, right? He promised his dying father. So what does he do? He weaponizes his staggering, suffocating grief and hatred. He points his absolute fury entirely at the jungle. Month 1, he starts taking the insanely dangerous solo perimeter patrols that nobody else wants. Month 6, he's out there clearing parasitic brain leaf colonies by himself. Remember, these are the vines that hijack your nervous system in 90 seconds. He burns them out for 4 straight hours and comes back covered in brutal chemical burns. Year 1, he maps out devil territory, physically tracks down the specific beast that hit their settlement, and comes back wearing its tooth. For 7 long years, he becomes the ultimate, ruthless killer. But he's doing it all out of pure, unadulterated spite. And what about little Tobin in all this? The whole settlement absolutely hates the kid. They literally throw rocks at him in the streets. But Tobin, doing the kind of grim math only a 7-year-old growing up on a death world can do, realizes the narrator is the strongest person there, so he follows him, constantly. To get rid of him, the narrator leans on plausible deniability. He gives the kid completely impossible, lethal tasks, secretly hoping the jungle will do what his own conscience won't let him, like sending him to collect venom from a barking toad nest. These are toads that explode into massive poison clouds. There are 37 toads in this nest, 1 for every single person killed that fateful night. He gives the kid a basic 60-second breather mask. It's a literal death sentence. But Tobin, he keeps coming back. His hands are shaking, he's refusing to make eye contact, but he's alive.
Section 4. Forged in the jungle.
This twisted dynamic violently shifts after 7 long years of waiting in limbo. The settlement medic comes to the narrator and delivers the heavy news. Corrin has finally passed away in his sleep. There were no final words, no miraculous awakening. The immense tension of 7 years of unspoken, simmering hatred is about to reach a boiling point. Tobin shows up at the narrator's doorway, nervously trying to say he's sorry for his loss, and something inside the narrator just completely snaps. He gets in the kid's face, tells him sorry he doesn't even begin to cover 37 dead people. He shoves him harder. Finally, he screams at Tobin that he should have died with his parents that night, and Tobin swings. One desperate punch connects clean across the narrator's jaw. The narrator spits blood, and he actually laughs. It is the very first honest sound he has made in 7 years. The toxic silence between them finally breaks. Now, what's really interesting here is how we see the evolution of the narrator's mind over the next few years. We watch his pure spite slowly evolve into this highly aggressive kind of protection. When a massive conscription notice arrives for the grueling Third War for Armageddon, Tobin is right there on the shortlist to be drafted. The narrator, still driven mostly by spite, but definitely evolving into this begrudging protector, uses his rank and influence to rip Tobin's name off that list. He slams the door on Tobin ever leaving the planet. Instead, the narrator takes the blood oath himself. He ties on the sacred red bandana and volunteers for the war, leaving the planet entirely just to ensure Tobin stays safely off the conscription lists. He leaves, genuinely thinking he's finally free of the massive grave that Catachan represents.
Section 5. The Final Sacrifice.
But here's the truth about this place. You never really leave Catachan. Months into the brutal war on Armageddon, the galaxy literally breaks in half, forcing the narrator right back home. The Great Rift tears reality apart. Demons and massive orc freebooters simultaneously invade Catachan.
Every single regiment is recalled to defend the homeworld. During the fighting, when Tobin's squad goes completely dark deep in Orc territory, the narrator forces that old plausible deniability one last time to go after him solo. He finds Tobin gutshot, stubbornly holding his weapon, literally daring the jungle to take him. The narrator picks him up, throws him over his shoulder, and carries him 4 brutal kilometers through totally hostile territory. It's the exact same distance Corrin carried a wounded scout through Devil territory all those years ago. And it's in that grueling march the narrator realizes, with terrifying clarity, that he actually cares if this kid lives. The cycle of legacy has fully, inescapably taken hold.
And as we all know, that kind of legacy always demands a heavy price. 2 weeks later, a massive, brutal offensive hits their eastern defensive line. It's a combined Orc and Demon breach. It's pure nightmare fuel. In the absolute chaos of the front line completely collapsing, a demon breaks through the line, heading straight for a settler's child, a kid no older than 5 years old. Sound familiar? The narrator doesn't even think. He steps directly between them, mirroring his father Corrin's final stand perfectly. He manages to kill the demon, but a heavy Orc round catches him from the blind side, tearing straight through his lung. It's a devastating, fatal shot, and every single person born on Catachan knows exactly what that sound means.
Section 6. The Warrior's Legacy.
Tobin manages to drop the Orc, but there are just way too many pushing through the breach. He can't fight them all off and carry the narrator to safety at the same time. They both look at each other, they both know it's over. As he lays there bleeding out into the mud, the narrator reaches up and presses Marcus's old dog tag into Tobin's trembling hand, followed by his own sacred red bandana. And then he repeats the very words that cursed and shaped his entire adult life. Take care of the kid. He passes the immense, crushing weight of that duty right down to Tobin. He shoves Tobin away, ordering him to run, and as he flees, Tobin looks back and calls the narrator Dad, for the first and the absolute last time. It is a profound, incredibly heart-wrenching completion of their entire journey.
Catachan wins the war, of course. It's Catachan, it always does. 3 months later, we look at the aftermath. Tobin goes back. He's the one who runs the settlement now. He's the one who stands up before dawn and does the morning head count. And to the brand new recruits, the kids just learning how to hold the blade, he tells stories. Not just the legends of Corrin, but of a brave, stubborn commander who once carried a gut-shot scout 4 impossible kilometers through Orc territory.
So, what does this all mean for us? The jungle decides who dies, but what kind of warrior will you decide to be? The narrator spent his entire life acting out of pure spite, desperately trying to emulate the coldness of the jungle itself, only to realize at the very end that to truly honor his father's memory, he had to become the warrior who decides who lives. I really hope this deep dive into the grim darkness of the far future has kept you focused and fascinated. Until next time, keep learning and keep surviving.